Officer Box also saw the subject vehicle collide with Cruiser 238 and said he then heard shots begin to ring out. Officer Box said that he thought that, quote, it was a major shootout with two suspects shooting at, and I quote, however many policemen were there, end of quote. Officer Box exited the car with a shotgun and ran up to Cruiser 217. He said he saw bullet holes in the windshield of the Cruiser. He moved up the side of the Cruiser and could, in his words, felt a bullet go past him. Something hit Officer Box in the vest. He felt it, but thought it might be a ricochet because it was not strong enough to knock him down. He told investigators that this increased his anxiety. After moving towards the front of Cruiser 217, Officer Box said he remembers trying to work the shotgun, and the next thing he knew, he was standing in front of Cruiser 217 with no cover next to the subject vehicle. He said he knew he fired one round, maybe two, at the subjects. It was later determined that he had fired only once. As Detective Michael Rinkus entered the parking lot of Heritage Middle School, he told our investigators it looked to him like other officers were chasing the suspect vehicle around in circles, and then someone yelled, "Shots fired." The subject vehicle reportedly started coming back towards Detective Rinkus and his partner. Rinkus said that he drove over an island and came back around through a playground median and back into the street, eventually coming to a stop. He said the cars were stopped and that it looked like they had blocked in the suspect vehicle. Rinkus got out of his car and said that there were bullets flying all around him. He said that he returned fire and then ran for cover. He believed he saw an officer fall, saying he thought that the officer had been shot. By the time he got to the sidewalk, Detective Rinkus was out of rounds. Upon his weapon being inventoried, it was learned that he had fired 13 rounds. Detective Michael Dimchek and his partner, Detective Aaron O'Donnell, stated they heard shots being fired as they pulled up to the scene at the middle school. During the chase, Detective Dimchek said that he heard on radio transmissions, quote, "They got a gun, looks like they're pointing a gun out the window, looks like they're reloading their guns, trying to reload a gun or something." He also said that he heard a radio transmission during that period of time, "Shots fired, they're shooting at us." He also remembers Officer Fairchild's radio transmission about a pop can. He said that the pop can radio traffic made him think about, quote, questioning what the agenda was here. They're taking the time to drink a pop? He remarked to investigators that he was considering the, quote, totality of everything. They shot at the police, ran from the police, were especially being casual drinking pop. Detective Dimchek also said that in his mind he believed the suspects were wearing bulletproof vests because the gunfight was apparently lasting so long. As he was exiting the car, he said he was thinking, these were some bad people who need to be stopped. Detective Dimchek came out from his car and moved to the rear of Cruiser 238. As he was doing this, he saw two officers on the driver's side of the subject vehicle firing into it. Seeing the officers dealing with the driver's side threat, he said he fired 4 times at the driver's area of the subject vehicle. As Dimchek was approaching the car, he saw an officer scrambling around. Those were his words, scrambling around. He said this led him to believe that shots were coming down the passenger side of Cruiser 238. The officer was ducked down as low as a trunk lid as he circled around the car right in front of Dimchek. He said this gave him the impression that the officer was taking fire. As Detective Dimchek got to the car, he said he thought to himself, the battle was on. These guys were shooting it out, and this had to come to an end. Detective O'Donnell said that as she and Detective Dimchek entered the school parking lot, she heard a couple of rounds that heard at least one person, possibly 2 different people, say, "They're shooting at us." While she and Dimchek were exiting their car, O'Donnell said that they heard more shots. She went to the driver's side front door of Cruiser 238 and said that she had a clear shot to the passenger side of the subject vehicle. She then took cover by Cruiser 238 because someone was alerting to crossfire. Detective O'Donnell said she looked to the subject vehicle as she began hearing numerous shots, observing that the driver and passenger were moving. She stated that she thought the driver was shooting, and it looked like the passenger was reloading. She drew her weapon and checked her target and beyond, firing several rounds into the passenger's window. O'Donnell said she originally thought she only fired 5 to 7 times, but later learned, based on an inventory of her weapon, that she had shot 12 times. Detective Christopher Erag said that while he was driving on the access road behind the school parking lot, he heard the subject vehicle strike a police cruiser. He told investigators that he thought he heard someone on the radio say, "Block them in." While still moving, Detective Erag said he heard rounds being fired. He exited his car, stating that he feared crossfire. He said that someone was on the radio saying, "They're shooting at us," or "shooting at officers." He also said that he heard someone yell, "They're shooting." As Detective Erag moved down the hill from his car, he said he saw 2 officers down and believed they had been shot. As he approached the subject vehicle, he said that rounds were still being fired and that he believed that the officers were taking fire. Erag said that he saw, quote, "glass from the suspect vehicle exploding. I thought they were shooting through the window, and I saw bullet holes in the police car over there. I thought these officers were taking fire." Detective Erag said he observed the passenger in the subject vehicle moving forward and that he thought the action was the subject loading his gun. He said he then took aim at the passenger and discharged his firearm. He thought he had fired 4 times, but later learned, based upon an inventory of his weapon, that he had fired 6 shots. With the exclusion of Officer Diaz's initial shots on the grass island, a waveform analysis of the audio recordings determined that the first discernible round of gunfire lasted approximately 8.5 seconds, followed by a 1.3 second pause. 1 additional shot was fired, then followed by a 2.4 second pause. The final round of gunfire lasted 5.1 seconds. The total duration of audible gunfire from first shot to last, which excludes Diaz's, because that was not audible, could not be picked up. But the total duration of audible gunfire from first shot to last was 17.8 seconds. To summarize, investigators determined that 13 officers discharged their weapons. Each of these officers stated that they felt, at the time, that they had no other choice than to discharge their firearms because they believed there to be an imminent threat to their safety and the safety of other officers. Additionally, all other officers from the scene who did not fire their weapons stated they too felt deadly force was justified. Now, there were various reasons for them not firing, such as not being in a position to fire or recognizing the crossfire situation. The temperament of the officers on scene after the shooting was quiet and somber, with most officers appearing to be in a state of shock. Officers were checking themselves and others for injuries, as well as examining their vests for any potential bullet impacts. As we tried to determine if the decedents had a gun, investigators searched the interior of the subject vehicle, the access drive, the staff parking lot, and the surrounding lawn areas at Heritage Middle School. The areas on either side of the subject vehicle's travel route, within a reasonable distance of where a gun could have been thrown, were systematically searched visually and then with the aid of a metal detector in higher grass areas. The interior of the car was not searched on scene. Rather, it was first transported on a flatbed tow truck to the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's office, where the decedent's bodies were removed, and the vehicle was then searched by employees of the medical examiner's office. The vehicle was then transported to the Vehicle Investigation Garage at BCI Richfield Regional Office, where our BCI special agents conducted a more thorough search and examination, including the removal of the vehicle's seats. No weapon was located, nor was any cartridge casing that didn't match any of the officers' weapons found. The Cleveland Police Department conducted searches along portions of the pursuit route, including around the Justice Center and I-90 near Dead Man's Curve. The investigative team did not duplicate those searches. However, they conducted a physical search along sparsely inhabited portions of the pursuit route, such as the Steel Yard Commons area, where a firearm could have been discarded without having been readily located. This included portions of Clark Avenue, Quigley Road, and West 14th Street around the area of the roundabout. No weapon was located. The statements of pursuing officers and radio traffic regarding where a weapon was purported to have been observed contributed to the narrowing of the search area. Investigators conducted a line search on both sides of the street, including a visual examination into the storm drains. The search extended to the sides of the roadway as far as a weapon could have reasonably been thrown. This distance varied depending upon the terrain and the presence of natural or man-made barriers, such as hillsides and fences. No weapon was located. Additionally, the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office dive team searched some of the waterways along the route where evidence potentially could have been thrown from the subject vehicle. This included a search of the water inlet at the Illuminating Company power plant on S. Marginal Road and the waterway east of Martin Luther King Drive at Wade Park. It also included a visual search at the northern section of Lower West 3rd Street along the Cuyahoga River. Again, no weapon was found. Investigators also reviewed numerous surveillance videos, traffic cameras, dash cam videos for any photographic evidence of weapon being possessed or brandished or discarded by the vehicle's occupants. None of these video examinations resulted in the observation of a weapon.